Hey guys, Chris Clothier here with another episode of the Grind Podcast. It's a Friday. I'm not going to sing It's Friday, although I did hear the unedited version of that the other day. Do you know what I'm talking about? The version where like voice correct wasn't played and it's not good. Well, Isabella wants to know why I was listening to that, which is a valid question. I wasn't. It was something that was played through social media, and I saw it, and I happened to click on it. It was doesn't really matter why we click on things we click on. We don't need to go into that. But I clicked on it. It was not good, so I'm not going to sing It's Friday on today's podcast. But I am going to tell you that today's podcast is going to be all about. It's kind of interesting. I can promise you before we even get going any further, this is going to be about a 15-minute podcast today. But I'm going to give you my take and some of my thoughts on some buzzwords that are going around out there in real estate. They've been out there for a while. They're marketing buzzwords, which if you know my take on turnkey, you know that I think that marketing buzzwords sometimes are intentionally used to swindle people. And look, today's topic is going to be no different. It was funny. Isabella and I were having a conversation. And we always do this. She comes up with these great podcast topics, and then I change it, and then I have to explain to her why, and then I have to kind of put my own spin on her great idea. But we always come back to some version of her idea. And today she said, one of her topics was you need to talk about financial freedom and people's freedom number or financial freedom, whatever the heck it is. I think freedom number was something that I don't like. We'll put it that way. It doesn't really matter where it comes from. I think lots of different people try and tout it and use it. And your freedom number, when you can finally let off the shackles of the world and give up your job and get out there and make your way in the world. And if you can't tell, I'm being facetious here, that that kind of stuff, it just infuriates me at times, because people that are very susceptible to marketing and may not need to be marketed to. What they really need is somebody to actually give them assistance. They don't need somebody to sell them on how to lift themselves up from their bootstraps. What they need is somebody to actually give them some real assistance. And I'm not going to go too deep into that because I'm sure somebody's going to say, what are you talking about? You're talking about entrepreneurs and how you have to get there on your own. I get all that. I'm not a fan of selling fantasy. And I think when you start trying to tell people to boil down what's your freedom number, what does financial freedom mean to you, that it becomes fantastical. So I'm sitting here, I'm talking to Isabella, and I'm telling her, okay, cool, let's go with this. Why don't you tell me, what does financial freedom mean for you? And I'm not going to go through her list because I didn't ask her permission. I'm not going to tell you this, but as I went down it, I thought, it occurs to me that a lot of hers may be similar to other people. I'm going to give you what I think are most people's thoughts on this, and I want you to notice the change, because there's like this curve. Financial freedom is like these very basic things. And then it becomes these bigger things. And then it becomes these bigger things. And then it becomes these things that are almost like, wait, where did that come from? What does that have to do with these very basic definitions of financial freedom? And then I finished my conversation with her. I said, all right, so Isabella, so what's your number? And she's like, what do you mean? I said, so what's your financial freedom number? She's like, well, I don't know. I don't know that you can even calculate that. And I was like, you're right. 100%. That's the problem. I am a great example of this. If I gave you my financial freedom number in my mid-20s, as I was getting married, no kids, working 2 jobs, really 3 jobs, because I was had 2 soccer coaching jobs. I was coaching youth soccer, traveling all over the country, and also coaching in the Olympic development program. So I was working a full-time job, 45 hours a week, I think is what I was putting in at the time. So, we had a lot going on. My financial freedom number then wouldn't even, it wouldn't work today. You with me? Like my thought process wasn't even getting me to, I never even thought back then of what does it really take? What does it take to raise a family? What does it take to build a future for myself that is secure? I needed to figure out how to stop focusing on this what would be these small goals and figure out how do I really turn up my dial. If you can imagine a temperature dial, doesn't matter when. During the day, at night, doesn't matter. I like to sleep in the cold of night. We'll use that. As soon as I figure out how to sleep at 70 degrees at night instead of 68, my body knows how to do that. If I have to sleep when it's 70 degrees at night, I can do it. I've trained my body to do it. I may like to sleep at 60, but I can do 70. And I'm not going backwards, okay? I'm not going to suddenly not be able to sleep again at 70 degrees at night. Here's what that means. Here's my analogy and how I bring them together. Once you've learned how to make money and you've adjusted your standard of living, you now have adjusted, again, I hate these verbiage, but you've adjusted your freedom number. You've adjusted what does it take for me to reach it. It's a natural human phenomenon that we keep growing, like we keep going up. But once you've learned how to get there, you know how to get there. Once you've learned how to create income, once you've learned from the entrepreneur side of, I know how to create income, I'm not going backwards, but we invariably and naturally recreate what freedom looks like for us. Some, I think, make the turn, and it's a big point I'm gonna make today. Financial freedom and what the hell, the freedom numbers, this bullshit stuff. Financial freedom has nothing to do with finances. Doesn't have anything to do with money. It all has to do with time, how you spend it. The big thing I try and tell people when they're talking about how do I know when it's enough? So that's the point, you know, that I'm financially free. I don't have to worry about what food costs. I'm no longer, I can be observant. I can still be smart. I can say, look, I ain't paying these outrageous prices. I'm still going to buy, the smart decision food, but I'm not buying it because I have to save it. And this is what I have to do in order to have enough food. I've been through that. I tell people all the time, there was a time when deluxe meal for me was ramen noodle with a piece of Kraft cheese that I would later find out was imitation cheese, wasn't even the real stuff, melted in it, with a can or a small jar of sliced mushrooms, a can of tuna fish, or canned chicken, one or the other, depending whichever one was cheapest, in there, and then all of it mixed together. And if it was a good night, we had broccoli pieces and stems frozen. Not broccoli, mind you, not the florets, not the good stuff, but the pieces and stems, the leftover parts that they would chop up, freeze into a box, and then sell. A good dinner for me was less than $5, and Michelle and I would eat off that for like 2 or 3 days. Because it'd make a big old bowl of it. Y'all melt it all together. It's like this big goulash, but it was great. I know what it feels like to eat that way. And I know what it's like to reach the point where I can send my child to a daycare I want them to go to and not have to worry about the cost. I know what it feels like to worry about it. I know what it felt like to not have to worry about it. I know what it feels like to take this massive leap, like this big leap, and say, we can afford that home. Even though I wake up every morning with, shit, I've got to perform today. Like I have to produce an income today. Because I have put myself under this new stressful situation. Understand that none of that has to do with what I term financial freedom. Financial freedom occurs when I get to choose how I spend my time. I get to choose, is today a hard work day? Is today a day when I get to be able to relax and go out with my wife or my husband or take my kids for a walk? I'm going to go spend 2 hours in the middle of the day at the park because I am not under the stress of how do I produce today. And it's almost impossible to put a real financial number on that. There's so much more to it. It's, again, smart spending, smart decision making, not overliving my means, living, within my means, saving money. I had this conversation recently with my son where I told him, I said, you, out of every paycheck you get, because he's now a working man, there's like, if you have to give it to me, give it to me. We'll put it into the bank for you. We'll start, hell, I'll charge you rent if I have to charge you rent here to live at the house for a short period of time while you're waiting to get your first place. And then I'll give it all back to you later on for a down payment. Whatever. You just got to get used to living below what you earn each week. And it's not about how do I reach financial freedom. It's about what am I doing each day to create an environment where there's no stress. And it was so great earlier when I was talking to Isabella. She used that word over and over and over again. So like if her and I were sitting there having hey, this is how you're going to define and reach what feels like financial freedom to you, it's a lack of stress. And it doesn't matter what that's built around. It doesn't matter what it's the ability to say, I'm going to not work today because I don't have to, and I'm not stressed about it. When I talk about, things getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, I think that Isabella is a great example of what we all want at some point. And that is, I want the ability to decide. That's what financial freedom is. I get to decide. And of course, Isabella is, and I'll say it here in front of her. I mean, she's one of my favorites up here. Because her and I work close together a lot. She's been a massive asset to us, but I'll say this on camera and on the thing. We've told her before that I'm not 100% convinced that she's going to be with us forever. I know that she's not, because she has this drive and this fire inside her. She's going to be an entrepreneur, and we are like 100% behind that. And understand what that means. Like, while she's here with us, I want to have the best influence on Isabella I can. And I want to be influenced by her. But I know one day she's not going to be here. She's going to be successful in her own right, in her own way. And she's going to be defining for herself what financial freedom is. She is going to initially take on the stress of I'm responsible for everything. And then she's going to grow into relieving those stresses as she gets more confident, more comfortable, as she gets used to the higher temperature. You know what I mean? She's going to know what that higher temperature feels like, and she's going to be able to function in it. She's going to be able to sleep well at night in the 70-degree room, for my analogy earlier. And that's a really, really good thing. Too often people, they buy into these programs, they buy into this mindset of somebody else gets to teach me how to find my freedom number and find my financial freedom. I'm going out there, whatever it's called. And the reality is that there's a lot that goes into that. There's a lot from mindset to who you surround yourself with, to picking the right idea, to having the right temperament, to having the ability to fight and drive and make it. And then you look up one day and you realize financial freedom never had anything to do with money. It always had to do with the ability to say, I'm in control. My time is my time. And even if you work for somebody else, that's perfectly fine. You have a great opportunity to earn money, fine, no problem. It doesn't have to always mean that you quit your job. Financial freedom doesn't mean I quit my job. That's dumb. No, it means that I'm in control of where I'm at in my life. I'm in control of what I'm spending. I'm in control of, how I live within my means. I'm in control of what I get to do on vacation, where I get to go, the food I buy, the schools I choose to send my kids to. I'm in control without the stress of everything else. Today's podcast, it kind of grew out of this just organic conversation I'm having, and I loved it. I thought, this is something I think that our listeners would benefit from. If you're out there listening and you're a real estate investor, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're neither and you're just trying to figure it out, if you're both and trying to figure out how do I balance this, look, I can just tell you from experience, I have lived well beyond my means, and then I've lived well below my means. I've done them both. I've made good financial decisions and really stupid financial decisions. And I've made good investments and bad investments, and I'm not scared of any of that. I'll admit all of it. I mean, that's where I'm at. But I'm super comfortable today in the position I'm in, and I believe I'm financially free, not because I have money, but because I have a great relationship with my family. I have a great relationship with money. I'm able to make smart investments. I'm able to, I'm able to do things that maybe I couldn't do a long time ago. That was part of my point earlier. How can you set financial freedom goals at 25? You don't even know what life is yet. So you can certainly set the goal of, I want to be in control of myself. I want to be in control of my time. That's a great financial freedom goal. Okay. It's awesome. Get there however you can, whatever it takes. But when it comes to money, if you always associate money with freedom, you're going to miss out on a ton of stuff. You're going to miss out on the true big picture. Because there's a lot of people that have a lot of money that aren't free. That's the bottom line. And so, look, if you got anything out of this one today, if you're getting anything out of this podcast, I want to say a sincere thank you. I really, really always appreciate that we have people out there that listen, that we have people that find value in what I'm sitting here doing, talking about each day. It does not bother me at all that Isabella gets more emails and comments than I do, that people probably don't even believe that she's real. But she is awesome. But I'm here. If you need to talk to me, if you want to send me any comments, feel free. Let's do it. Let's chat. Let's talk it up. Let's see what you want to hear about. And until we get a chance to meet again, guys, I really appreciate you joining me. Commit to the grind. We'll see you later.